Welcome back to the channel The Coin Empire. Today we are diving deep into one of the most mysterious and talked about coins in the world of numismatics, a coin that has sparked curiosity among collectors, investors, and treasure hunters alike. The 1972's 1-cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that, under the right circumstances and with the right combination of rare errors and minting mistakes, has been rumored to reach an astonishing value of up to $85 million. Now, before you dismiss this as just another exaggerated claim, stay with me, because what you are about to hear could completely change the way you look at the coins in your pocket or hidden in old jars at home. This story is not just about a coin, it is about the fascinating intersection of history, human error, and the incredible value that can arise from imperfections. The 1972's penny was minted in San Francisco, and most of these coins were produced as proof coins, meaning they were specially struck with polished dies and planchets to create a mirror-like finish intended primarily for collectors. However, within this controlled and precise environment, something unusual happened, and over time collectors began noticing subtle and sometimes dramatic differences in certain specimens. These differences are what turned a simple 1-cent coin into a potential multimillion-dollar treasure. One of the most significant factors contributing to the extreme value of some 1972's pennies is the possibility of a doubled die error. This occurs when the coin die receives multiple impressions from the hub at slightly different angles, resulting in a noticeable doubling effect on the design elements, particularly in the lettering and date. In the case of the 1972's penny, certain rare examples exhibit strong doubling on the words and numbers, making them highly desirable to collectors, but not all doubling is created equal. The most valuable examples are those with clear, bold, and dramatic doubling that can be easily seen without magnification. Adding to the rarity is the fact that proof coins are typically held to higher quality standards, so the presence of such an error suggests an extraordinary lapse in quality control, making these coins even more intriguing. Another possibility that drives the value of the 1972's penny into the millions is the existence of transitional errors. During the early 1970s, the mint was experimenting with different die preparations and materials, and in rare cases a coin could be struck using a die intended for a different finish or composition. Imagine a proof coin being struck with a business strike die, or vice versa. This kind of mismatch creates a unique hybrid coin that defies standard classification and can command incredible prices among elite collectors. Furthermore, there is speculation about off-metal strikes where a penny could have been struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, or even another country, although extremely rare. If a 1972's penny were discovered on an incorrect metal composition such as a silver or aluminum planchet, it would instantly become one of the most valuable coins ever found. The condition of the coin also plays a critical role in determining its value. A flawless proof coin with deep cameo contrast and no visible imperfections can already fetch a high price, but when you combine pristine condition with a rare error, the value multiplies exponentially. Collectors are willing to pay a premium for coins that are not only rare but also well preserved and visually striking. Another layer of intrigue comes from the possibility of minting anomalies such as die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions on subsequent coins, or die cracks and cuds which can create raised lines or blobs on the coin's surface. While these errors are more common than doubled dies or off-metal strikes, certain dramatic examples can still command significant attention, especially if they appear on proof coins where such imperfections are least expected. Some experts also believe that a small number of experimental strikes may have been produced at the San Francisco Mint during this period. These coins were never intended for circulation, or even for official release, but somehow a few could have escaped into the hands of collectors. If a 1972's penny were confirmed to be an experimental strike with undocumented characteristics, it could easily justify a valuation in the tens of millions. Adding to the mystique is the role of provenance and collector demand. A coin with a well-documented history of ownership, especially if it has passed through the hands of famous collectors or been featured in major auctions, can see its value skyrocket. The story behind the coin becomes just as important as the coin itself, and in the world of high-end numismatics, rarity alone is not enough. It is the combination of rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector interest that determines the final price. Another factor to consider is the psychological aspect of collecting. When a coin is rumored or believed to be worth an extraordinary amount, it creates a sense of excitement and urgency among collectors. Even the possibility of owning such a coin can drive up demand and prices as more people search for similar examples. This phenomenon can lead to record-breaking sales as collectors compete to own a piece of history. The 1972 penny also benefits from the broader appeal of Lincoln cents, which have been a staple of American coinage for over a century. Many collectors start with pennies because they are accessible and familiar, making the discovery of a rare and valuable example even more thrilling. Imagine finding a coin worth millions in a collection you inherited or a roll of pennies you bought from the bank. It is this dream that keeps collectors searching and fuels the market for rare coins. However, it is important to approach such claims with a balanced perspective. While there are indeed rare and valuable 1972 pennies, the idea of one being worth $85 million represents the absolute extreme end of the spectrum, likely based on a perfect storm of multiple rare errors, exceptional condition, and intense collector demand. Not every 1972 penny will be valuable, and most are worth only a few cents or dollars, but the possibility, however remote, is what makes the hunt so exciting. So what should you look for if you want to identify a potentially valuable 1972 penny? Start by examining the coin under good lighting and magnification. Check for any signs of doubling, especially in the date and lettering. Look for unusual textures or colors that could indicate an off-metal strike. Inspect the surfaces for die cracks, clashes, or other anomalies, and pay attention to the overall condition of the coin. A well-preserved example is always more desirable. If you believe you have found something special, it is crucial to have the coin authenticated and graded by a professional service. This not only confirms its authenticity but also provides an objective assessment of its condition and rarity, which are key factors in determining its value. In conclusion, the 1972 1-cent coin is a fascinating example of how small imperfections and rare circumstances can transform an ordinary object into an extraordinary treasure. Whether or not a specific coin reaches the legendary value of $85 million, the stories and possibilities surrounding these coins continue to captivate collectors around the world and remind us that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest value. So the next time you come across an old penny, take a closer look, because you never know what hidden treasure might be waiting to be discovered right in the palm of your hand. Next, 2011 1-cent coin. Today we are uncovering a mind-blowing story that might completely change how you see the coins in your pocket. Because what if I told you that a simple-looking 2011 1-cent coin could be worth up to $80 million? Yes, you heard that right. A coin that most people would ignore or spend without a second thought could actually be one of the rarest and most valuable treasures in the world of coin collecting. And in this deep dive we are going to explore exactly how such an ordinary coin could reach such an unbelievable value by breaking down the errors, mistakes, and rare possibilities that turn it into a collector's dream and potentially a life-changing discovery. Now, the 2011 penny was minted in Denver, and millions upon millions of these coins were produced as part of the everyday circulation of United States currency, meaning that on the surface there is nothing special about it. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield design on the reverse, which had only recently been introduced in 2010, making 2011 one of the early years of this reverse design. However, within this massive production run lies the possibility of extremely rare anomalies and minting errors that could elevate a single coin from being worth 1 cent to tens of millions of dollars. And it all starts with understanding how coins are made and how things can go wrong in ways that create rarity instead of destroying value. One of the most talked about and potentially valuable errors that could exist on a 2011 penny is a double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives more than one impression from the hub at slightly misaligned positions, resulting in visible doubling on the design elements such as the date, the word Liberty, or the inscriptions on the reverse. While minor doubling is relatively common, the kind that could push a coin into the millions would have to be extremely dramatic and obvious even to the naked eye. Imagine bold, shadow-like outlines on the lettering or numbers that appear almost duplicated. This kind of striking visual anomaly would immediately catch the attention of collectors and grading services, and if confirmed as a genuine double die, it could become one of the most famous coins of its era. But the story does not end there, because the 2011 penny could also theoretically exist as a transitional error, which is one of the rarest and most exciting types of mint mistakes in numismatics. Transitional Errors happen when a coin is struck using a design or metal composition that does not belong to that specific year. For example, the United States Mint switched the composition of pennies in 1982 from primarily copper to zinc with a thin copper coating, but what if a leftover experimental or incorrect planchet made its way into the presses decades later, while extremely unlikely if a 2011 D penny were discovered struck on a pure copper planchet, or even a completely different metal such as bronze or steel? It would instantly become one of the most valuable coins ever discovered because it would represent a significant deviation from standard minting procedures and a rare glimpse into the complexities of coin production. Another extraordinary possibility is an off-metal strike where the coin is struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, or even a foreign coin. Imagine a 2011 D penny struck on a dime planchet, resulting in a smaller, thinner coin with incomplete design details, or even more extreme, a penny struck on a planchet meant for a completely different country. Such an error would be incredibly rare and would immediately attract global attention from collectors and auction houses. The uniqueness of such a piece would make it nearly impossible to assign a standard value, which is exactly what drives prices into the millions as collectors compete for ownership of a one-of-a-kind artifact. Then there are die errors such as die cracks, die breaks, and cuts, which occur when the die itself becomes damaged during the minting process. These can create raised lines, blobs, or missing sections on the coin, and while many die errors are relatively minor, some can be so dramatic that they completely alter the appearance of the coin. A large cut, for example, could obscure part of the design, creating a bold and unusual look that stands out immediately, and when such an error appears on a modern coin like the 2011 D penny, it becomes even more intriguing because modern minting technology is designed to minimize such mistakes, meaning that any significant error represents a rare failure in an otherwise highly controlled process. Another fascinating type of error that could contribute to the massive value of a 2011 D penny is a brockage error. This happens when a previously struck coin gets stuck to one of the dies, and then impresses its mirror image onto the next coin, resulting in a design that appears reversed and incuse on one side. While brockage errors are known, they are not commonly found in pristine condition, and a perfect example on a modern coin could command a very high premium, especially if it is well centered and clearly defined. Adding to the list of possibilities is the concept of a double denomination error, where a coin is struck more than once with dies intended for different denominations. For instance, if a penny were first struck as a cent, and then somehow struck again with a dime or nickel die, it would create a hybrid coin with overlapping designs from two different denominations. Such an error would be extraordinarily rare and would likely become one of the most valuable coins ever recorded due to its uniqueness and the complexity of the mistake that created it. Condition also plays a massive role in determining the value of any coin, and for a 2011 D penny to reach a valuation of $80 million, it would need to be in near perfect or perfect condition, often referred to as mint state or proof-like, with no visible wear, scratches, or damaged. Coins that retain their original luster and have sharp, well-defined details are always more desirable, and when combined with a rare error, their value can increase exponentially. Grading services use a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a flawless coin, and only a handful of coins in existence ever achieve this level. So imagine a 2011 D penny with a major error and a perfect grade. It would be the ultimate prize for collectors and investors alike. Another important factor is provenance, which refers to the history of ownership of a coin. If a rare 2011 D penny were discovered and then passed through the hands of well-known collectors or featured in major auctions, its story would become part of its value. Collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying a piece of history, and the more compelling that history is, the more they are willing to pay, and in some cases the story behind the coin can be just as important as the coin itself, especially when it comes to record breaking sales. The psychology of collecting also plays a huge role in driving prices to extreme levels. When collectors believe that a coin is unique, or nearly unique, they are often willing to pay whatever it takes to secure it. This competitive bidding can push prices far beyond what might seem reasonable to outsiders, but in the world of high-end numismatics, rarity and desirability often outweigh logic. The idea that a 2011 D penny could be worth $80 million may seem unbelievable, but when you consider the combination of a major error, perfect condition, historical significance, and intense collector demand, it becomes more understandable how such a valuation could be reached, even if only for a single extraordinary example. It is also worth noting that rumors and speculation can sometimes amplify the perceived value of a coin. Stories of million-dollar pennies spread quickly, especially online, and they inspire countless people to search through their change in hopes of finding a hidden treasure. While most 2011 pennies will only ever be worth their face value, the possibility of discovering a rare error keeps the excitement alive and fuels the hobby of coin collecting for millions of people around the world. So if you want to check your own coins, start by examining any 2011 pennies you have. Look closely at the date and lettering for signs of doubling. Inspect the coin for unusual shapes, sizes, or colors that could indicate an off-metal strike, and pay attention to any strange marks or distortions that might suggest a die error. Using a magnifying glass or coin microscope can help reveal details that are not visible to the naked eye, and if you believe you have found something unusual, it is important to have it authenticated and graded by a professional service to confirm its rarity and value. In the end, the story of the 2011 1-cent coin is a reminder that even in a world of advanced technology and strict quality control, mistakes can still happen, and when they do, they can create objects of incredible value and fascination. Whether or not a specific coin ever truly reaches the legendary price of $80 million, the idea itself captures the imagination and encourages us to look more closely at the everyday objects around us, because sometimes the most ordinary things can hold extraordinary secrets. And who knows, the next time you receive change or come across an old coin jar, you might just be holding a piece of history that could change your life forever. Last 1982 1-cent coin. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and controversial stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that revolves around the 1982 1-cent United States coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that, under the right circumstances and with the right combination of rare minting errors and transitional anomalies, has been rumored to reach an astonishing value of up to $78 million. And if that sounds unbelievable, just wait, because as we explore the history, the mistakes, the hidden variations, and the possibilities behind this coin, you will begin to understand how something so small and common could turn into one of the most valuable treasures a collector could ever dream of finding. Now, to truly appreciate why the 1982 penny is so special, we need to go back to that specific year, because 1982 was not just another year for the United States Mint. It was a year of major transition and change, particularly in the composition of the penny. For decades, pennies had been made primarily of copper, but due to rising copper prices, the mint decided to switch to a zinc core with a thin copper plating, which created one of the most complex and confusing series of variations in modern coinage history. And what makes 1982 even more unique is that during this single year, multiple different versions of the penny were produced, including large date and small date varieties, as well as copper and zinc compositions across different mint locations, creating a perfect storm of variables where errors and rare combinations could easily slip through unnoticed. And this is exactly where the story of the $78 million coin begins, because among all these variations, the most famous and valuable are those that should not exist at all, such as a small date copper penny from certain mints where only zinc versions were supposed to be produced. And while a few of these transitional errors have been discovered and sold for significant amounts, the idea of an ultra-rare, perfectly preserved example with additional errors stacked on top is what drives the potential value into the tens of millions. One of the key factors that could make a 1982 penny worth such an extraordinary amount is the presence of a transitional composition error. Imagine a coin that was struck using the old copper planchet even after the mint had officially switched to zinc for that specific variety. This kind of mistake would indicate that leftover copper blanks were accidentally used in the production process, creating a coin that defies official records and becomes instantly desirable among collectors because it represents a unique moment in minting history where old and new technologies overlapped. And while a few transitional errors have been confirmed, the discovery of a previously unknown variety, especially in pristine condition, could set new records and spark intense bidding wars among collectors and investors. But composition is only one piece of the puzzle, because the 1982 penny also offers the possibility of dramatic double die errors, which occur when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple impressions that are slightly misaligned, resulting in visible doubling on the design elements such as the date, the word liberty, or the phrase "In God We Trust." And while minor doubling is relatively common, the kind of doubling that could push a coin into the millions would have to be extremely bold and unmistakable, with clear separation between the doubled elements, creating a striking visual effect that immediately stands out even to the naked eye. Such a coin would not only be rare but also highly recognizable, making it a centerpiece for any collection and a prime candidate for record-breaking auction prices. Another layer of rarity comes from the possibility of off-metal strikes, where a penny is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, or even a different country. Imagine a 1982 penny struck on a dime planchet, resulting in a smaller, thinner coin with incomplete design details, or even more extraordinary, a penny struck on a planchet made of a completely different metal such as bronze, steel, or even an experimental alloy. These kinds of errors are incredibly rare, and when they do occur, they often become some of the most valuable coins in existence because they represent a significant deviation from standard minting procedures and offer a glimpse into the inner workings of the mint during a time of transition and experimentation. And when you combine such an error with the already complex variations of the 1982 penny, the result is a coin that could easily justify a multi-million-dollar valuation, especially if it is unique, or nearly unique. Condition also plays a crucial role in determining value, because even the rarest error coin will not reach its full potential if it is heavily worn or damaged. For a 1982 penny to approach the legendary value of $78 million, it would need to be in near perfect condition, often graded as mint state 68-69, or even the elusive 70, meaning it has no visible imperfections, retains its original luster, and displays sharp, well-defined details across the entire surface. Coins of this caliber are exceptionally rare, especially among error coins, which are often mishandled or overlooked when they are first produced, so the combination of a major error and flawless preservation creates a level of rarity that is almost impossible to replicate, and this is exactly what drives collectors to pay extraordinary prices for such pieces. Another fascinating aspect to consider is the possibility of multiple errors occurring on the same coin. While each type of error is rare on its own, the existence of a coin that features several errors at once, such as a transitional composition combined with a double die and a dramatic die break, would be nothing short of extraordinary. Such a coin would represent a perfect storm of minting anomalies, making it one of the most unique and desirable items in the entire world of numismatics. And when collectors encounter something truly one of a kind, the usual rules of pricing no longer apply. Instead, the value is determined by what someone is willing to pay, and in high-stakes auctions this can lead to prices that seem almost unimaginable. Provenance and historical significance also play a major role in determining value. If a rare 1982 penny were discovered and its journey documented from the moment of discovery through various collections and auctions, its story would become part of its appeal. Collectors are often drawn to coins with a compelling narrative, especially if they have been owned by well-known figures or featured in major numismatic events. The more famous and well-documented a coin becomes, the more its value can increase over time as it gains recognition and prestige within the collecting community. The psychology of collecting further amplifies this effect, because when collectors believe that a coin is unique or represents a once-in-a lifetime opportunity, they are often willing to go to great lengths to acquire it. This competitive drive can push prices far beyond what might seem reasonable to an outsider, but within the world of rare coins, it is this passion and dedication that fuels record-breaking sales and keeps the market dynamic and exciting. The idea that a single penny could be worth $78 million may sound like a fantasy, but it is rooted in the very real principles of rarity, demand, and historical significance that govern the world of collectibles. And while not every 1982 penny will be valuable, the possibility of discovering a rare and valuable example keeps collectors searching and fuels the excitement of the hobby. So what should you look for if you want to identify a potentially valuable 1982 penny? Start by examining the date to determine whether it is a large date or small date variety. Then weigh the coin to see if it matches the expected weight for copper or zinc composition, as copper pennies are heavier than their zinc counterparts. Look for any signs of doubling in the lettering or date, and inspect the coin for unusual features such as cracks, breaks, or distortions that could indicate a die error. Also pay attention to the color and texture of the coin, as these can provide clues about its composition, and if you suspect that you have found something unusual, it is important to have the coin authenticated and graded by a professional service which can confirm its authenticity and assign it a grade that reflects its condition and rarity. In conclusion, the 1982 1-cent coin is a perfect example of how a combination of historical transition, minting errors, and collector demand can transform an everyday object into a potential fortune. Whether or not a specific coin ever reaches the legendary value of $78 million, the stories and possibilities surrounding these coins continue to captivate collectors and inspire new generations to explore the world of numismatics. And the next time you come across a penny, take a moment to look a little closer, because hidden within that small piece of metal could be a story worth millions, and perhaps even a discovery that changes your life forever.